Powerhouse Paving University. Welcome back to the show, James.
Thanks.
What are some of the most common problems that customers have with snow plowing contractors?
Generally, a lack of performance is the biggest problem. For instance, the snowplow contractor might arrive to the site late, or they might not come at all. Another problem is the contractor's operators might not be real familiar with the site, so they may, for instance, put the snow in places that egress is needed and not store it properly. They might also do damage to light poles or curbing or islands that need to be protected if they're not familiar with the site prior to the snowstorm. It's also common that communication is just the biggest problem. For instance, the customer calls the contractor and says there's a problem by a door or there's a problem in an entryway that needs to be dealt with, and the contractor is not answering the phone. This could be the result that the contractor or manager himself is not available because he's driving a snowplow, so there's no middle management involved. Another reason could be that he's just dodging bullets because he's got so many problems and so many phone calls coming in. That's often pretty common as well.
But what causes these breakdowns? Don't the contractors know better?
Well, they really should. However, lack of training in advance, lack of showing the operators the sites in advance, and proper discussion with the customer of which areas on the sites are more sensitive and less. For instance, it's common that a operator would be plowing the back of a facility instead of the front, and obviously the front would need more attention sooner than the rear in most cases. So these type of things are often a problem. Another problem can be that the contractor's machinery is not properly maintained. He didn't put enough attention to detail prior to the storm. Maybe he didn't come just prior to the storm if there's on-site equipment like payloaders and start them to make sure they're running just before the storm comes in. These things would relate to a delayed response and often cause difficulty.
Well, that raises a good question. What is the best snow plowing equipment to use?
Well, that's a bit of a loaded question, and every site's going to be unique. There are things like pickup trucks that are commonly used with 8-foot type plow blades, and there can be larger dump trucks with 9 or 10-foot plow blades, and payloaders of various sites. Half-yard, 2-yard, 3-yard, 5-yard payloaders can be used. They can often have snow pushers on them. Skid steer tractors, most commonly referred to as bobcats, are very good as well. But really what's important is to match the equipment to the site. A large site's going to need larger equipment. A tight site that doesn't have areas to store the snow may need tractor-type equipment like payloaders and skid steers so that the snow can be picked up and piled tighter, not just pushed like the typical method of a snowplow.
James, when it comes to experience, why is a contractor's experience so important?
Well, ultimately, a contractor that has a lot of experience with snow is going to do the prerequisite questioning, the walkthrough with his operators, really find out what the customer really needs, what their tenant perhaps really needs. This way, when the operators come to the site, they have a clear designation of what needs to be done. In our company, for instance, we make a detailed map. It's highlighted in various ways and annotated so that each operator, when he comes to the job, knows exactly what he's getting into and what the customer expects. This reduces the phone calls dramatically, as well as the callbacks.
Insurance is important. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Insurance is so important. Obviously, you would want to check a contractor's insurance certificate and make sure he's insured, but most people don't realize that most contractors who move snow, they're not usually insured to move snow. For instance, the average landscaper who's cutting grass for a living is probably not endorsed to do snow work as well. So this might be something that you'd want to check out in advance, especially in a situation where the site has high liability issues. But regardless, you want your contractor to be properly insured and licensed to do work in your area as well.
James, thanks for the terrific information. It's always great to have you on the show.
Pleasure.
Powerhouse Paving University is brought to you by Powerhouse Paving. For more information, please visit powerhousepaving.com.